Hello, my name is Magdalena Kania, and I have the pleasure to share some thoughts and some reflections with you on teaching teenagers, which for me are the most challenging but also rewarding age group to work with. So age of opportunity is the main theme. During this session, we will talk about the possibilities, but also the drawbacks, the potential problems we might come across when working with teenagers. And I will try to introduce the visible framework, visible thinking framework with some practical examples. Okay, so first of all, I'm from Poland. Probably some of you might not know me at all. I've been teaching for 25-ish years, probably. I run regular workshops across Europe and worldwide. And in my teaching and in my training, I promote simple and efficient teaching techniques because I think that less is more, and I mostly focus on learning rich activities and lessons. In my private life, I love reading. I am a Netflix addict, like probably some of you. I have two adult sons, and I like challenges, and I'm a keen hiker. I've walked Camino de Santiago, the way. Maybe some of you heard about it. Actually 6 times now, I think. Yeah, this year maybe the 7th. Like I said, I love challenges, and working with teenagers is definitely a challenge. But I absolutely love doing that, and I hope you will be able to see it throughout the session. Okay, so let me start with kind of a reflection. I think that a breakthrough moment in your teaching career, that definitely happened in my teaching career, is the moment when you come to realization that you're not only teaching English. What you do when you work with teenagers, you have the chance, the opportunity to shape young people's minds. So I realized at some point that I teach future leaders. So whatever I pass down to them will probably have impact on not only their future, but also mine. And when we talk about leaders, I think that you will agree with me that throughout the history and from your own experience, you probably remember that people who think that they have all the answers are definitely up to lead people off the cliff. Yeah, so we need questioning leaders. We need people who ask questions, who are curious, who want to learn something more, who want to learn something different. Some like why do we need questioning leaders? Because questioning provokes thinking. And when you start thinking, you come up with some great ideas, you're more creative, you're better at solving problems, and you keep digging deeper. You are not satisfied with the easiest answer, with the simplest answer. You just want to learn more, because questioning is about thinking, and thinking is about learning. So I think that that's why we need questioning leaders, and this will be like the kind of a main theme in my showing you the visible thinking framework here. It's like all about questioning, asking questions, and answering these questions, and following the process of the thinking situation. Okay, so a group of people came up with a project, Harvard Project Zero, and like that was the result of people asking questions. So a group of people started wondering, like, how can we improve learning? And this is the result of this first basic question. So like the Harvard Project Zero was founded by Nelson Goodman, and it started with the focus on understanding how we learn in and through the arts. Okay, so that was the beginning. Of course, over the decades, project has extended beyond the arts. So now there are quite a lot of different projects within the project, Harvard Project Zero, that you can apply in your teaching. As you can see, there's a plethora of options and a plethora of projects you can choose. But we will focus today on this one particularly, visible thinking. To tell you the truth, when I first came across this term, I was a bit confused. Like, what is visible thinking? Is it even possible to kind of see that somebody is thinking? And I also asked the same question to my students, and they said that for them, visible thinking is like this. Yes, that they can see that the person is thinking. Yeah, you can see it in the face. Like, definitely we can see that this person is doing some cognitive, like kind of mental work probably, but it looks more like kind of something between worrying or I don't know, daydreaming or something like that. So then I started asking questions like, is the person sharing some ideas? Is this person like offering some creative ideas? And the answer was like immediate from my students, like, yes, probably there is something happening, and he will share it in a minute. Okay, you're right, but visible thinking is actually a framework which is supposed to enrich classroom learning, and we want to focus on like fostering students' intellectual development. We want to help them develop their thinking skills and using this thinking to become better thinkers and better learners. So it's the visible thinking framework was developed by Lemshaga Academy in Sweden, and like it basically focused on developing students' thinking dispositions. The key goals of this framework was to the key goals were to help students understand content deeper through different thinking processes, through different thinking routines, as I will show you later. They wanted to help students get better motivation, greater motivation for learning. You know, it's a challenge. Yes, it's difficult to motivate someone else. So you need some tools to develop the motivation, intrinsic motivation. Yes, you want them to want to learn more and want to learn better. Of course, it was focusing on developing learners' thinking and learning abilities, which are like closely connected, and you will see in a minute. And the key goal, the last key goal, was to shift classroom culture. Yes, like we are not satisfied with working with jaded teenagers, you know, this age group. Yeah, I think I don't have to say anything particular here. Yeah, like if you work with teenagers, you know what I'm talking about. So we want to move them from being jaded teenagers to becoming master thinkers. And that's for me, myself, that's the key goal. Yes, because I think, personally, I think that if my students become master thinkers, they understand the content better, they have motivation, and they keep developing their thinking skills, they become more independent thinkers. And that is like my personal key goal here. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with a kind of a description or a part of the session in which I will talk about this age group, which I call like age of opportunity, because it absolutely is age of opportunity. These kids are still growing. their minds are still being shaped. So like I said at the beginning, we can have a huge impact on the type of people that they will become, the type of thinkers that they will become. Of course, now when we talk about teenagers, we are talking about generation Alpha, which are the kids kind of born more or less after 2010. And I like to think of them as thinkerers, not thinkers, but thinkerers. So the term thinkerer is a portmanteau, like a blend word of two words, of the words think and tinker. We know the meaning of the word think. Yeah, it's like when we direct our mind towards someone or use our mind actively to form some ideas. And tinker is when you try to repair or improve something in a very casual or desultory way. Like you can tinker with your car. You don't want to meet your mechanic, you just tinker with your car. That's something I can't do with my car, but I can do with many different things, especially with teaching. So what I mean here, the word thinkerer, like I said, is a blend word, because what I want my students to do is to be able to mix the concrete with the abstract. Okay, so like combining the details with the big picture to have a wider perspective, to have deeper understanding of the homeless, of the aspect we are talking about. For example, when I discussed the concept of homelessness with my teenage students, like the first ideas that they came up with, like their descriptions, was that the homeless people are lazy, that they are usually drug addicts, and so on and so on. But when I kept asking questions and I kept provoking them to think wider, to take a different perspective, they came to some wonderful conclusions. Like they started talking about the socioeconomic situation, they started to talk about the psychological aspect of that, and so on. And by the end of the lesson, when we kind of recapped the idea of homelessness, their thinking about the concept was slightly different. So I was incredibly happy to see thinkerers in action. Okay, Generation Alpha, like I said, it's like the teenagers who were born more or less after 2010 and up. It of course depends on the country and on the situation, but that's the general description. What we know about this generation, some key aspects that I picked for this session is that they are definitely high-tech savvy, and they know how to use their mobile phones, definitely. Of course, they disappeared from Facebook. They use other social media, but they are very comfortable with using technology. What I love about this age group, that they are globally minded. Yes, they focus on people from around the world, and they are very willing to discuss the topics which are not only connected with our local affairs. They are very adaptable and resilient, not always, of course, but generally they are the kids of the older generation. So, like when we learn from our mistakes, we try to help younger people avoid these mistakes. So they have definitely developed here. Unfortunately, they have short attention span, but this is absolutely normal with teenagers, it, and like it's always been a challenge. One more thing that I particularly like about them is that they are stereotype free, mostly. Yeah, I learn a lot from them, to tell you the truth, because I'm from a totally different, like I'm probably 3 generations up. So whenever I have a chance to talk to my teenage students about stuff like which is concerned with stereotypes, like I really learn a lot, and I really cherish those moments. And the last one, the last descriptor is that they are independent. They tend to be independent learners and thinkers, while I want to emphasize the word tend. Yeah, they have the tendency, but that's not always true. And we have to kind of focus on developing this tendency into becoming fully independent learners and thinkers. So, as you see, it's we probably don't have to worry about them learning to think, because they mostly can do that, and they do it quite well. But maybe more we should focus on thinking to learn. So that's the message today of this lesson, like of this session. Sorry, that I think the thinking dispositions, the skills that they develop in this age of opportunity should be used to help them to learn. So I am sure you've heard of Daniel Kahneman. It's a fantastic author, the author of Thinking Fast and Slow, which is a brilliant book about our thinking systems. Like there is the description that we have the system 1 and system 2, which the first one is about thinking fast, is like snap judgments when we rely on limited resources, limited information we have in our minds to draw conclusions. And then there's system 2, which is slow, which needs effort, and which needs like constant waking it up. And doing, like thinking, like provoking it to do some work. It's actually quite lazy, the system 2, we probably know. Okay, so he coined the term Vyasati, and he encourages like everybody to go beyond Vyasati. And what is that? I will tell you in a moment. First, have a look at this exam task. In Poland, we have the Matura exam, which is by the end of the high school. And part of this English Matura exam is, well, speaking is part of this English Matura exam. And one of the tasks that students have to do is kind of describe the picture and talk about the picture. And I had one student who struggled with it incredibly. Like she couldn't grasp the fact that like that she should describe the picture which she can see and the examiner can also see, and her reaction like why should I even do that? Like he and I, we both can see what's in the picture, so what's the point here? Okay, so with this girl, I had to, I focused strongly on going beyond Vyasati. It's like what Vyasati stands for, what you see is all there is. Okay, so we focused on some ideas which come to her mind when she's looking at this picture. Of course, in the first part, she had to describe, like, I can see some people playing, blah, blah, blah. But she also had to justify why she thinks they are on holiday and, you know, stuff like that. But then we focused on going beyond Vyasati, going beyond what you see is all there is. And that was the idea presented by Daniel Kahneman, who said that we are generally cognitive misers. People are generally cognitive misers. Like we don't like to spend our mental energy entertaining uncertainties. Yes, like we like to take what we see, and we are too lazy to go deeper. And it nicely translates, in my opinion, into the two different types of learning, which is one is called surface learning and the other is deep learning. So in surface learning, our students mostly memorize knowledge facts, and quite often it's just through rote practices. I can see it happens quite a lot when they try to learn vocabulary. Yeah, they just memorize. Of course, memorization is not bad, but when we talk about wider aspects, when we talk about looking for understanding, of course, we should go beyond Vyasati, which in learning would be deep learning, when we focus on understanding the content through more active and productive processes. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this beautiful shape, which is called Bloom's taxonomy, which presents the cognitive skills and thinking skills, and it groups them and it presents them in the shape of a pyramid, and it groups them into lower order thinking skills and higher order thinking skills. And as you can see, understanding is at the bottom. It's quite sensible, yeah, like I get it. First you need to remember, then you need to understand, so that you can actually do something with the content. But the people standing behind the visible thinking framework like kind of contradicted this idea, because they try to persuade us that understanding is actually not a type of thinking. Understanding is an outcome of thinking. Yeah, sometimes, of course, you need to, like, if you want to understand fully, I don't know how the printer works. Yes, I'm looking up because my printer is up there. Well, I had to do some tests. I had to run some tests. I had to tinker with it sometimes and just I analyzed different aspects of the printer. Then I tried to draw some conclusions, and then, like, at the end of this process, like, I finally understood how the printer works. So look, I first had to analyze some aspects, then I evaluated how it works, and then I came to understanding. So in my case, understanding should be at the top here. So that's a very interesting aspect that I think is worth spending a few minutes thinking about. Of course, they confirm their thinking, their ideas that understanding is not a type of thinking, but an outcome by some research, which of course proves that understanding is not a precursor to application, but a result of it. And I hope you remember that one of the key goals in this visible thinking framework was deeper understanding of content. So I think it just kind of goes nicely here as far as the people who came up with the visible thinking framework. Okay, so now let's have a look at the teachers. When I remember age of opportunity, but this is an age of opportunity for our students, but I think also for us as teachers. I don't know if you'll agree with me that that was definitely my case. Like, most of the things I have learned, maybe not most, but quite a lot of things I have learned was throughout my teaching career, and I have learned them because I was teaching. So while teaching, I was learning and growing and developing my own skills. That's why I will try to show you, to persuade you that we as teachers should also become teacherers. like people tinkering with teaching, yes, repairing, improving, doing certain things to become better teachers. Okay, so I hope you know that the learning, teaching, the classroom situation is like a triangular relationship. And quite often, content is at center stage. Yes, like we focus on the content of our lesson. Then the second element, the second important element, like in real life, is the teacher, and student is usually the last. Yes, like he is only the person who is perceiving, who is how to say it, who is like a sponge. He should take in everything that the teacher has to share with them. Of course, I know that we live in a high stakes testing environment, and quite often we are pressured to cover the curriculum. But I think that too often a classroom becomes a place of tell and practice. Yes, so the teacher tells and students have to practice. Yes, like we take the content, we tell them, do it, and they just do it. And I think we should kind of shift the order. We should remember that it is the student who should be center stage. Then there is the content, and guys, it doesn't mean we are not important, but in this triangular relationship, like we are the least important part, because if you work on your students become independent thinkers, independent learners, that is to help them to be able to learn throughout their lives without you as a teacher standing beside. I think this is also one of the breakthrough moments in your teaching career, when you realize that the focus on teaching should be shifted to that of learning. And this means if you come to this place, it means you have progressed and you are now definitely a more effective practitioner. So instead of, this is what happened in my case, like I remember my beginnings when I was a rookie. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm the star here. Yes, I'm on the stage and you have to listen to me. I came to share my wisdom with you guys. So my kind of instinct reaction would be, in the past, of course, like, do not ask questions. That's my job. I'm the one who's asking questions here. But fortunately, with time, there kind of happened, some transformation happened, and now whenever my students ask questions, even if they're silly and not about the lesson, I'm usually quite curious, and whenever it happens, I say, oh my goodness, that's brilliant, that's interesting, tell me more. What makes you say that? What makes you think that? Okay, so the shift in which it's not about me, it's about them. Okay, because whenever they ask questions means that they are curious. I found this quote, it really resonates with me. Like, people are united by questions. It is the answers that divide them. Yes, like we can all ask questions. We should ask questions, and quite a lot of people ask interesting and provoking questions. It's usually the answers. Yes, some make us happy, some make us angry, and that's how the manipulation, I think, also works. Is that they divide people because of the answers, not because of the questions. So you see, in Poland we have this saying that there are no stupid questions, there are only stupid answers. And I absolutely love it, because I think that even the silliest questions can be powerful, because it can unlock conversation. If there are, like, of course, we need two sides which are willing to have this conversation, but I assume it happens in the classroom. Yes, when you have an open-minded teacher and students ask questions, like, of course, you are happy to unlock a conversation. Some of the teachers, when I was talking about this and this aspect of asking questions, one of the teacher asked me, but aren't you afraid that you will not know the answer? And I said, well, no, I'm not. I don't need to know all. I don't need to know. I don't need to have all the answers. Yes, I'm not afraid to say or to admit, like, guys, I don't know. Let's find out. Let's do it together. I think it works much better than, I don't know, pretending that I don't know, you're a genius. Are you a walking encyclopedia? I'm not. So I think it also takes some kind of courage and to admit that you might not have the answers. And sometimes when it happens and the students ask me a question, even if it's about the content, and let's say I'm not sure about the answer, I kind of pass the question to the students. Okay, so yeah, maybe try to find the answer among your friends, and then we will try to take it all in and like generate one answer that we all contributed to. So do not be afraid of your students asking questions. Remember that conversation is the most important thing in our English teaching, learning classroom, isn't it? And remember that questions provoke thinking, and we need our students to think to be able to grow, to become independent thinkers and learners. One more thing, which is very important for us as teachers, teacherers, remember, we want to also kind of grow and become better teachers, is think about the language you use in your classroom. For example, I am this privately, in my private life, I am the person who hates being given advice. It's like, what you should do is, okay, no, that's not gonna happen with me. Yeah, but mostly probably it's because of the language the person is using. If what he or she said, well, one thing you might consider is, sounds much better to me, because the person gives me some options to choose from, and the person does not impose anything on me. The advisor is like gives me a chance to take responsibility and gives me a chance to think and analyze the options. So I feel kind of respected, I feel valued, and I definitely would be more willing to react to the second phrase. Like, one thing you might consider is. So whenever you are in the classroom, whenever you're working with teenagers, especially with teenagers, I think you should think about the language you use. Okay, so maybe avoid these like absolute one right answer language, because I think it makes people doubt their thinking. Yeah, when I come across a person who is absolutely sure this is the right answer, and even if I, like, deep inside, I know it's wrong, because yeah, I know the answer and it's not that. When the person is so sure and so confident, it's like, I don't know, I start doubting my thinking. Okay, maybe I was right, maybe I was wrong. So remember, the language we use is incredibly important when we work with teenagers. Okay, so before we move to the visible thinking framework, the thinking routines, I will share some with you, and I will give you a more detailed explanation of why and how we should do them. Let's recap what I have already said. So remember, when you want to make sure your students are ready for visible thinking practices, routines, lessons, you have to remember that questions are one of the most important aspects. I think we shouldn't be afraid of asking questions, and we shouldn't be afraid of our students asking questions. We should encourage them to do that, because when they ask questions, they start thinking, and thinking kind of makes learning. It enriches learning. It makes them, when they think deeper, when they tinker with thinking, they develop their own systems, thinking systems. There are thinking styles and so on. Okay, then we talked about thinkerers and teacherers. So remember, tinkering with thinking and tinkering with teaching. We want to improve, we want to grow, we want to improve our students and make them, help them become better thinkers. That's why I presented the term thinkerers. And the teachers, we also should think, should focus on our growth, on repairing what we are doing. Maybe we can do something better. Definitely we can. And the visible thinking is about, like, one of the key aspects was the deeper understanding of the content. And I think it goes without saying that's what's our aim as teachers. Yes, we want our students to actually understand what they are doing, what they are learning. And one more thing, remember, go beyond Vyasati. What you see is all there is. There is always something more. Do not trust your snap judgments. Try not to be a cognitive miser. Try to think more and try to help your students think more, to go beyond their knowledge, beyond their skills, into understanding, into growing to become independent thinkers. Okay, so how can we make the invisible visible? Is it even possible? How can we kind of make learning unfold in our classroom? Well, to tell you the truth, it's pretty easy. It's very intuitive, trust me. The user will have no problem using it. I think it's just what happens quite often when you work with teenagers or with kids. Yes, it's like so easy. Like, what can go wrong? Well, something can. Hopefully, you will not have problems like that. Okay, so first of all, how can we introduce visible thinking framework into our classroom? Okay, so I talked about questioning quite a lot so far. So remember questioning. And I would like you to remember about the form of questions, the way we form our questions. So of course, open-ended questions will prompt better answers. Yes, we don't want our students to say yes, no, yes, no. We want them to actually think and produce something. So open-ended is like, of course, moving toward understanding. Yes, not only what they know, like checking the facts, but going deeper. Well, we should model an interest, and that we can do by asking authentic questions or choosing authentic topics. This generation is one of the generations that wants to learn useful stuff. They don't want to, memorize facts that they will never use, which I absolutely understand. 70% of things I have learned in high school, I don't need it now in my life, probably. So choosing the authentic topic, but also being authentic, showing them that you're interested, that you also want to know what they think, you want to listen to them, of course. So facilitating and listening is about like asking questions like, what makes you say that? Okay, like standing kind of next to our students and provoking them to go deeper, to analyze, to keep working, to keep thinking, and listening to them. Because when you listen to your students, when you really listen to your students, you show them respect. You show them that their ideas have value, whatever they are. They do have value because they are their ideas. Okay, so I don't want to transition like what's in my head into their heads. On the contrary, I want to look inside their brains. I want to take it out, like whatever is there, and I'm really curious to hear it. So I listen to my students quite often, like always, sorry. And the last element is documenting. That's the very important part of the visible thinking. And do not mistake it with worksheets, okay? So documenting visible thinking is not filling in the worksheet in which students have certain tasks, yes, like read the text, answer the questions, and so on and so on. No, that's not it. Documenting here means like recording the thinking process. And I will show you some examples here. So, like I said, when you make thinking visible, it helps students remain engaged with the ideas that we explore at our lessons. They can see that their ideas have value because they are documenting, and they can see that everyone can contribute something. So making it visible, I think, is this strongest part of visible thinking framework here. Okay, so thinking routines. Let's have a look at some thinking routines and how you can apply them into your teaching. So first of all, there are two websites that you can visit to find some thinking routines. The first one is, of course, the Harvard Project Zero website, where you will find types of thinking categories. Okay, so the thinking routines are grouped into more or less 10 categories. As you can see, core thinking routines, introducing, exploring ideas, going deeper, and so on and so on. And once you click on the category, you will see some examples, some thinking routines you can choose from. You will see in a minute, because first I want to show you another website, untools.co, where you will find tools for better thinking. And as you can see, they are grouped here in a slightly different way. And the thinking routines are also kind of different from those used at the Harvard Project Zero, but quite a lot of them are similar. I like this one, this website. It's very it's quite simple. And what I like about this website is once I choose the thinking routine, there is this PDF with the description, but there are also examples like how it can be done in the classroom, what kind of lesson it can be used for, and so on and so on. So I really like this one. But of course, Harvard Project Zero, the people who created the visible thinking framework, is the first one probably for you to check. Okay, so let's start with routines for introducing and exploring ideas. I will show you 3 different categories. And in this one is we want to help our students articulate their ideas, and we want to spark their curiosity, and we want to motivate them to maybe explore deeper. So as you see, like I said, once you choose this category, you have quite a lot of thinking routines to choose from. You probably know some of them, like See, Think, Wonder, which is, I think, like most teachers know this one, or 3-to-1 bridge, for example. But my absolute favorite in this category is the explanation game. So the explanation game is we use it when we want our students to work with some concept, or I don't know, a feature or aspect of an object. Okay, so like you can of course adapt it to your own lessons, to your own needs, but the idea here is that the thinking routine like happens in 4 steps. So the first step is for our students to look at the object, the feature of the object or the concept, like look, of course, mentally, and they have to name it. Okay, so like you see in the photo, my students worked in groups, and like we divided the huge piece of paper into 4 squares, and in every square they had the different step of these thinking routines, and they all had to contribute their ideas. So once they named the feature, they presented their ideas to name the feature or the aspect, they had to move to the element of explain it. It's like, what could it be? What role or function might it have? And so on. Of course, the questions here are produced by me. So this is my contribution to this task. Yes, I'm just standing beside them and asking questions and probing and provoking. The third part is like they need to give reasons. What makes you say that? Why do you think it happens this way? And so on. And the last one is generate alternatives. So we start with like, what makes you say that? Kind of what's the other option? And so on and so on. Maybe it seems like kind of pointless. Why should I do that in my lesson? But when my students did this thinking routine for the first time, what I really loved was that they could actually see their thinking process, and they even the quiet students contributed something. They didn't have to speak in public. Yes, they could do it in a small group. They didn't have to speak in front of the class, and they could brilliantly see their thinking process. Okay, so I also, whenever I do that with my students, I try to show them, like as a by the end of this activity, of this thinking routine activity, I try to show them how they can apply this thinking routine in their real life. Well, I don't always show them, of course. I ask them questions like, how could you apply it? In what situations might you find it useful? And they come up with different ideas. So everything is happening in English. So they are still learning a language. They are still practicing. But as you can see, they are also learn to become better thinkers. Okay, so the next category is routines for synthesizing and organizing ideas. I think quite useful and quite important. And I can see that a lot of people, not only students, I mean adult people, struggle with it. Like people have problems with, finding coherence or distilling the essence of the amount of things they are bombarded with on a daily basis. So this time I liked this thinking routine color symbol image, and this is something I did with my students on kind of A2 B1 level. So, not very advanced, but very like teenagers, but really, willing to learn English. So this is the the thinking routine, which you can use to make sure that students kind of understand a certain concept. And I used this thinking routine when we practiced some abstract nouns like laziness, happiness, homelessness, stuff like that. So the idea here is like quite simple. Students need to gather the information. It can be done after a lesson, I don't know, after a reading lesson or a listening kind of practice, or writing where students had to deal with a certain topic. Yeah. In my case, it was the lesson on abstract nouns. And the idea here is that students choose the word, like here it was happiness, and they need to choose the color, the symbol, and the image that best represents or captures the essence of the idea. So as you see, the answers are quite simple. It was yellow, a thumb up, and like a color was yellow. The color which represents happiness for my students was yellow. The symbol was a thumb up, and the image was a kid playing. Unfortunately, I don't have a photo here, but I will tell you now how it looked. So it was very simple. Remember, A2, mostly A2 students, okay? So they didn't produce any complicated text or explanations. They kind of created some kind of pictures, yes? So the square for color was all yellow, but they gave me some explanations, like in one group, that for one of them, it was the sun, because when the sun is shining, like, we are happy. For the other student, it was the lemon in your tea, because like warm tea with lemon or lemon juice, like makes you feel warm and cozy, and so on. Then a thumb up. They also shared some ideas. It's like that when somebody shows you a thumb up, it means the person is satisfied, and so on. Of course, they used a very simple language. But the thinking processes and the ideas that they came up with were brilliant. And my students really liked this lesson, because it was kind of different. And they had to communicate in groups, and they had to generate ideas, and they had to like come to the conclusion together. They had to choose from different options, like the sun, the lemon. Okay, we have yellow, brilliant, and so on. It's of course you can use it with higher levels, with advanced students, but for me personally, it worked brilliantly with these A2 teenagers. And one more routine I want to show you is the routine from the category digging deeper. When we want our students to dig deeper, we want them to understand the content better. We want them to get better understanding, and want them to analyze different aspects, evaluate different aspects, so they can understand things better. And what I like, understand and maybe learn something better. My favorite one here is tug of war. And this is the routine that I usually use with higher level, like B1, B2 is the best, or C1. Oh my goodness, that's the brilliant activity for B2, C1 groups. So tug of war. This routine builds on our students' familiarity with the game tug of war. This is the one when there are two groups and they are trying to pull the rope, okay? And like, who is the stronger? There is the line that one of the groups has to cross, and that's the idea of tug of war. So once your students are familiar with that game, it's much easier. And I use this thinking routine to prepare my students to have like more meaningful discussions and more meaningful conversations in which they are able to produce arguments and counter arguments. So the idea here is, as you can see in the photo, it looks like a tug of war. We have two different groups. So we present a dilemma. And to tell you the truth, I started with something very simple, like who is a better companion, a dog or a cat? And my students really loved this one because fortunately they were divided. Yeah, there were dog people and cat people. Okay, so this is the dilemma. Yes, like who is a better companion? And then students, like each of them produces some arguments on pieces of paper. Like I usually use post-it notes. Using two colors is the best because you have the pro and against, or the cats and dogs arguments on different colors. And then the students need to kind of identify the factors that pull at each side, and they have to think of like reasons why they would support a certain side of the dilemma. But as you see, it's like in a traditional discussion, you have to like you say something, you have an argument, and then you listen to the people giving you a counter argument, and you have to respond to that, like thinking on your feet. And here, the difference is that students can see all the arguments. And first, what I do with them is to think about the cat side and dog side, like in what position, like which is the stronger, where would you put certain arguments and why? And then they also look at the counter arguments, and they can look for potential answers, potential counter arguments. And they, like when they were choosing the post-it note on this tug of war in different positions, I could see that they were placing them like in this position, like this argument will be a perfect counter argument for this one. So it was like in one line. Okay, there was a brilliant discussion. They were fighting for their ideas, so their attacks, and you could see them being engaged, them thinking all the time, looking for arguments. But in terms of visible thinking, you could see the process of choosing the position of different arguments and counter arguments. So this is what worked here brilliantly. And the last part of this thinking routine is generating what if questions to explore the topic further. And this is exactly how we ended. My students generated questions like that, and that was their homework assignment to look for some more aspect. And they, what they managed to dig after the lesson, mostly online, was absolutely brilliant. So they took it with them beyond the classroom. Okay, so after some time of working with introducing thinking routines into my classroom, I asked my students their opinions, like, what do you think about it? Yes, because I experiment on my lessons, but I tell my students about it. Yes, like I tell them, okay, guys, this month we will do some creative stuff. Okay, this month we will try some thinking routines. Okay, they are very curious. Okay, why? Well, usually I tell them because, I want to be a better teacher, and it's like, oh, boring. So then I started telling them, because I'm training teachers and I need this for the session and I need your feedback. Oh my goodness, they feel brilliant then, and they are very willing to share their ideas. So here are some of the responses I got from my students. As you can see, from the age of 12 to 18. Yeah, that's mostly the age group I work with. So Marek said, thinking routines help me to learn. Okay, I was really curious. Can you say something more? He had problems explaining it to me, but he said, now I know that I have to first write something, then I have to think about it. Like, his explanation was not very, did not bring much value to my idea of thinking routines, but I'm happy he uses some routines to learn better. After some time, he told me that he found the website with thinking routines, and he started analyzing different routines. And that was the moment of success for me. Okay, Patrick, he's 12 years old. I love Patrick. He is, this kid who cannot sit still throughout the lesson. If he could, he would click his pen, which drives me crazy. But he can see that, it irritates me at some point. And he's, okay, I will be quiet now. But he loves asking silly questions, yes, off the topic. And I was overjoyed when he said that I love that we can make silly questions, and Mrs. Kania never laughs at us. She wants to know more. This is true, yes? Even if the question is absolutely silly, I always say, what an interesting question, Patrick. I don't know the answer, but maybe you can share something with me. So you see, it's about this shift in your mind. Yeah, do not be the aloof, stiff teacher, just have some fun. Julia, 17 years old. Julia is a very shy person. She has problems with public speaking, with speaking in front of the class, even though I know she's brilliant, and the vocabulary she has is just amazing. And what Julia said is that she liked that everybody could see her ideas, because she could contribute kind of quietly without speaking, in front of the people. So that's also something which I think has value, because as you see, she said, I can add something valuable. Okay, so she can see that her thinking is also important on this lesson, and that is because of the documenting part of the visible thinking routine. And Zuzia surprised me quite a lot. We had a lesson on long-term consequences. This is the thinking routines when you have some kind of a problem or a dilemma, and you have to think of the different consequences, like in a month, in a year, in 5 years, and so on. I did that with my students when we had a lesson on problem solving situations. And what Zuzia said, that after our lesson, when we worked on long-term consequences of our choices, I used this system, she said, to choose a uni for me. Okay, so as you can see, this kind of how students transfer what happens in the classroom into their own lives, into their own thinking, into how they feel, into what they do and what they want to do. Okay, so if you want to read more, I present some books that I used preparing this session. So all the facts and the kind of knowledge I shared with you was inspired or taken from the books you can see. And I also share the 2 websites that I showed you, the websites where you can find different thinking routines to use with your students. I hope you will introduce the visible thinking framework into your teaching. It's definitely worth it. Remember, we want to be teachers. So thank you very much, and hopefully see you again sometime.